Okay, I've been really looking forward to this interview, and it it delivers. From the war-torn streets of Civil War Sri Lanka to the rise of top boardrooms, Fortune 500 companies as a CFO. Our next guest does not just survive and share her story, but she thrives. And she wants you to take a page from her story so you too can live your dream. Stay tuned for Ennobled for Success with Dr. Kasthuri Henry. So, first of all, welcome. And so Kasthuri, Dr. Henry, what do you like to be called?
Whatever works for you, I am fine. So if Cass works for you, we can go with Cass. I am flexible that way.
Okay, good. I actually love Cass because you introduced yourself to that, and I feel honored to be able to call you something so familiar. So I'm going to stick with Cass then.
Perfectly good. And it's a pleasure to be on your show, Maureen.
Thank you. So first of all, the book. So I'm going to share something with my audience, and I shared this with you a little bit earlier. So I have been really looking forward to this interview, and as I mentioned to you off screen, at first was because of who you, what you're doing, and what you had become. You are a CFO for Fortune 500, early mid 30s. I mean, you're the right hand to Warren Buffett and others around the world. I mean, the big league, and you definitely held yourself there, and that was enough. And then we spoke, and then I read your book, and now it's so much more. It's about, I get to listen to you, and I get the privilege to get to know you, and the book is amazing. So let's just get into this. First of all, what the courage to write your book and all of that. Tell us about that journey and where the book finally said, I'm going to write this.
I have always wanted to write the book because I felt that there was a page that every young woman and young person has the opportunity to take from and run with, because I found my salvation in books. And books are a safe go-to place. It allows us to interpret it and incorporate it into our life. So even as a child, my dream was to write. So writing the book was not the challenge, but the challenge was actually finding the right publisher who will allow me and work with me to do it authentically without pushing me to give too much in a way that people who need to be protected are exposed, because I come from a Civil War area. And then also telling me, don't go there because it's not profitable for business, or don't do that, don't do this. So I needed to find the right person who would be a strategic partner for me to bring the book forward. And writing in English was not the most natural thing for me because I'm not a native English speaker. It is my third language. It's my adopted language. I still don't count or do math in English. So I always think in visuals and then interpret to tell the story. Storytelling comes naturally because I think in images. And then finding the right way to communicate that in English, and then drawing from my language, because my language is more than 5,000 years old. It informs me to culturally depict things very differently. You know, there is research that proves that how we show up is a direct correlation to our language and our culture. I wanted to be authentic to that as well. And it was important to find the right partner to bring that forward for me, instead of saying, this is not how the Western world perceives it. I needed to remain true to who I am. And I've been very happy.
Well, okay, so first of all, when I was about to read the book, I had expected something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
I expected something about business strategy, something, to be quite honest, probably a little bit dry, a little bit clinical, and in those windows, and still going to be a contribution.
Mm-hmm.
The book surpassed every element of what an amazing book is. It's such a great read. You cry, you laugh out loud. It's a page turner. You can't put it down. And it's the story of your life. And what a story! But it's also the story of the thread of humanity, the importance and the gift of kindness, and coming from this place. And that is where your courageous is, because coming from the top corporate setting, and to lay that out there for the world to see that kindness is the way to go is beyond courageous.
Yes. And it is something that is always pointed out to me. And I always have reverted to humor because it's a nice way for me to disarm the situation. And every role I have been in, every organization I have been in, people tell me, Cass, for a finance executive, you're way too kind. And I smile in my own way and I say, let's unpack what you just said. I'm a finance executive who happens to be kind, according to you. But according to me, I'm a human being who happens to be a finance executive. So it's my humanity that comes here first. It's my humanity that informs me as to how I should be. And the job doesn't define me. My humanity defines how I execute my job. Until Martians come here, we're not finance executives who happen to be human. We're all human. So until Martians come, the premise is the other way around. And so we talk and laugh about it, but it also reminds me and gives me an opportunity to remind everybody else that we do have to show up authentically in our humanity. Because when we do, we don't need to have a program for diversity and inclusion, equity. All of that are artificial things that we have to do, because in the real world, there is an absence of it.
Okay, so now you've been breaking the mold, or put it another way, the box everyone's been trying to put you in since, early too, and as a very young child. This was an outright laugh out moment. So you first of all were the eldest daughter of 4 children, and your parents had you all late in their 40s because I guess they were pursuing their careers, and that was culturally normal for them at that time and where they were in life, and et cetera. So also we'll get into this because there was so many things that I got to learn, but there was also the stereotype of what. Well, I'm going to let you get into it. I'm going to get into that about the diary, about who's placed and what preferences go into that, and the role of the male child, and also about light skin versus dark skin, and what box they tried to put you in and didn't.
Yeah, it used to be hurtful in the beginning, but then I started deciding this is fun. Let's play with it, right? Because as a child, there are only 2 places to go. My mother was a professor, dad was a banker. And in Sri Lanka, people do get married late because it's a predominantly women-dominated society. Women run the household. So the woman has to be in her career settled in before she has kids. So that was the norm. And so my mom was light-skinned, and culturally, a light-skinned girl is sought after for marriage. I come from a society where women are empowered. First elected female head of state came out of Sri Lanka in the 60s. So there is that power and a woman's leadership, but I won't call it dominance because it's a partnership, because it has to be a level playing field for society and the family to thrive, but women leading. But in the same sense, marriages were arranged. So you needed to be desirable. You needed to be wanted by the boy's family. And so having a mind of your own and speaking your mind before they know who you are, before they agree to the marriage, is not necessarily a good thing, because then you might take the son away from the mother and all of those other family dynamics. And my mother insisted that she ate all the right things, and I still came out dark, right? I have a sister who's very light-skinned who always insists she's my husband's sister because it's easier for her than explain to people why we are 2 different colors. And my paternal grandfather was Irish, so I have light-skinned I got the hair, she got the color. I'm okay with that. I still like the hair.
I love the hair. So I thought one of the outright laugh out loud. So you were sitting down with your mom, and you'll have to tell people how old you were, just to give you context of how mature and how already you were set with who you are by your maker, right? And we'll get into that. That you said, Ma, okay, aren't you glad that I look like Dad, so you know I'm Dad's? And yes, I have Dad's complexion, but thank goodness I'm not bald like Dad, right?
Yes.
They had nowhere of going with that, did they? How old were you at that time?
About 5 or 6.
Okay. And it just blank stare. It's like the worst like stand-up audience possible. They never got it, did they?
My mom always laughed and said I was the judge advocate general of the family, and I was going to be an attorney when I grew up.
Okay. You decided to not be boxed into that either. Okay. And you know, one of the other really laugh out louds was actually a remark with you and your sister, right? And your dad was really going to go in there, and he says, I'm going to give a lesson today, and I'm going to go in there because it's very important that I teach my girls to be good Hindu children, good Hindu girls.
Yes.
And he said to you and your sister, and what is your sister's name? Because I didn't get that.
Nandini.
No. Okay.
Nandini is the name of the holy cow.
Okay, good. Oh, and we'll get into the cow too, because that has to do with where you were later on, where you were placed, which I think is an amazing thing. We'll get there too. So he says to you both, he's like, okay, so a woman and a girl should not speak until she's spoken to. And what did your sister say?
We are just girls in a space isolated from the men that who talks first.
And what was the question she asked him?
Yeah, that's what she asked. If my sister and I are isolated from our brothers and we can't talk to the friends, then if it's just two girls, who talks first? Do we never talk?
Just like that, I lost it at that. I broke out laughing. I thought that was very funny, and that was just the way it was. That you okay? How about going to the Montessori school? That first day there, that's another one that and now you were about 2.5, right?
2.5, yes. Okay. So we are allowed to go to school after our second birthday. Okay. If you can function, right? So we have Montessori system and we're introduced to it. And then after your 5th birthday, 6 years old, you go into grade 1. So I was the oldest daughter, but I was the second child. Mm-hmm. I was 2 years younger than my older brother. But at home, my parents always kept saying, you're the oldest daughter. You have to take care of the kids. You're responsible. They both went to work. So we kids were home alone all day. Right. So at 2.5, I remember them telling me I was responsible for the 2 younger ones. And so I took it seriously. And so I told them I need to go to school to learn how to be responsible. And they said, I'm not ready to go to school. And we had a rickshaw that took my brother to school. And I was friends with the rickshaw driver because I'm naturally a friendly, chatty person who loves to go out there and talk to people and learn things. So I had asked him previously to take me to where Montessori school is so that I did my reconnaissance, basically.
At 2.5.
Yes. And then when he took my brother to school and my parents left, I got dressed and I walked. I took a walk and I went into school. I'm still surprised they let me in. But I was in school full day. And on my way back, the rickshaw driver came looking for me because apparently my mother was crying and the whole community was in an uproar. They thought somebody kidnapped me. I must have gone out to talk to somebody and I got kidnapped.
Which is not completely out of the realm of where you were in society.
Yes, because it was a civil war, right? But here I was excited about having gone to school and everybody is like, oh my God, what happened? And then my mother cries. First, she's happy I'm okay. And then I got a lecture. But after that, they let me go to school every day.
But the next day you were able to go to school. And what was it? Was it the VAR? Was that his name? The rickshaw driver, the VAR?
Thurber.
Okay. Okay, good. And he was the first to listen and say, oh my God, this amazing child. So let's get into, because it definitely, and then that was just, it's such an amazing time, and all of, but then you get to 1983, am I correct? And that was the, okay. And what happens in 19th? Give us a little bit background of the Civil War, of where it's Tamil.
Yeah, Tamil.
And there was a minority, and what this swing vote meant, and then what this what that was living.
Okay.
And had
so
happened.
Sri Lanka was a 3-nation island before the European colonization. And the British, we were a Portuguese, Dutch, and an English colony over 400 years. And only the last part of the British colonial time, they ruled the whole island. And they left us as a single nation, even though we came from 3 different nations. 2 of the 3 nations belonged to the Tamil people. 1 belonged to the Sinhalese. And Sinhalese came from North India. They're Aryan. They came through the migratory pattern to occupy Sri Lanka. So we are the natives. We're Dravidian as a race. Tamil is the language of the Dravidians. And we're natives of South Asia. So we lost our homeland and our ability to live there when the British left. But one of the things British did is they handpicked the Sri Lankan Tamils, educated us in UK, and took us as administrators to all their colonies. So we were already spread around through the diaspora to run their colonies for them. Okay, we were never taken as slaves, but we were taken as administrators. And when we got independence as an affluent population, we didn't reproduce as much, so we became the minority. Okay. And the 2 majority parties came into power, and we became the swing vote. So every time the party that lost would go, every 4 years, they'll go house to house and attack and do all the unimaginable things. They'll make the fathers and sons watch what they do to the women in the family, and then torture the men. So grew up in a way that the bank put security in the house, and the convent, the nuns took all the women and children in. And so this goes on, and there comes a time where, and we also had segregated schools. When we got independence, the majority felt that because they were not as English proficient, they felt that we needed to make compulsory mother tongue education with their language, only national language. That way they could exclude the minority from economic engagement. But because where Sri Lanka was at the hub of international trade and where the island sat, it's very strategic to access Europe and Africa and Middle East and Australia and New Zealand. So it was strategically important. International business existed, and we were English proficient. So parents continued to educate the children in the West and have foreign jobs. Yeah. So what the government did is, because you were segregated in schools, the universities got segregated, and then they started labeling minority as terrorists and sending military into Tamil universities, and the military started raping girls. So in early 83, in May, June, when 13 soldiers raped 13 girls, the boys couldn't take it anymore. Their classmates killed the soldiers. When the bodies came for cremation to Colombo, I will never forget, July 23rd. July 22nd, bodies came for cremation. And the fisherman at the top of the street came and told my father, please don't go anywhere. Stay with the family. Don't send the kids to school. We'll try and protect the street as much as possible. But there is going to be a massive attack. They're going to declare curfew. They're going to declare martial law. If you come out, you'll get shot. To the extent possible, we'll protect you. I mean, we were all commingled. They were Sinhalese Muslims and Christians, and Sinhalese are Buddhists. Okay, people seem to think that Buddhists don't do any harm. But this is a conservative Buddhist-driven operation.
And that was very much my initial thought. I said, but they're Buddhist. So again, it was another shift in complete perspective. Yeah.
So it also allowed me to realize it's not about the religion, it's the conservative nature of men. Conservatism, by its definition, resists change, because by resisting change, you keep power. And it's a very male-driven approach. And here we were in a very female-driven society. Therefore, people were comfortable stepping outside their race and religion and helping each other. We all lived because of that. The fishermen wouldn't have come and helped us. We were from a different race. But humanity to humanity, that existed because culturally that was propagated. The minute you introduced conservative religion into politics is what this happened. Okay. And you can go anywhere in the world with history. It is always conservative religious leaders who do this. It's not the fault of the religion.
And yet, sometimes it's usually that conservative male element is to contain women.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, Dad went to work. He was a banker. He said he had to go to work, and we stayed home, and then all hell broke loose.
How old were you then?
God, 83. I was in my 8th grade, 13, 14.
Okay, because I know that you said your brother was in 10th. He was just finishing up his okay. And I was
his O-levels,
you were about 13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because all of you were like anywhere from 18 to 15 months apart, the 4 of you.
Yes.
Okay. So within that, there is, again, there's an amazing, and that's what really becomes the lesson, the ennobled, leader and that inspirational leader in that the consistent way you've lived your life and seen your life and moved through your life is through, again, going to the positive, going to the good elements of humanity and people. And within that, and then even with that whole crisis going on, it was more than a crisis. It was life and death. It was people. It was tragedy and trauma. There was the essence of community, of the bread for your brother's birthday, which it was just so beautiful. And even then, and it was not at that time something that really was, you guys had to escape at some point. So it was not something sustainable and it was not safe. But there was still an essence of something really, truly beautiful and something that's a thread through all of your life, and it's a thread through all of us, which is what you stand for, which I think is just amazing. Do you want to leave
community? The community matters. And my biggest lesson in life, and I would say the single largest reason I have thrived, regardless of where in the world I have gone and what I have done, is the ability to authentically connect with people and build a relationship that is based on kindness and empathy and living life with grace. And I always say, God gave me the ability to judge and judge situations, but I don't want to be judgmental. And I draw a very fine line between the two. And I don't know what drives people and their circumstances, but there is a window of opportunity for me to appeal to their humanity. And I will take that shot any given day. And that has actually paid in spades.
So there was, in the beginning of the book, you'd mentioned something that stuck with me as well. You said that with people, there's about a 50-50 chance that those that you will reach them, and they're those who be toxic. Because there are toxic people. You're like, it's better than Vegas arts, so I'm going to go with that. But with there's a lot of toxicity out there right now with being, and that was the other thing that as much as that you enjoyed, I believe it was your secondary school when it was the woman at the end of the hallway, right? The snack girl at the hallway. She had that sign up that said, well, I have 2 things I enjoy if you're coming, but I can also enjoy if you're going. And
she was the nun who ran the housing for us, the dorm room, as you call it in the West. We call it the hostel. The lady who ran the hostel.
And that when there are those types of people that are toxic, that you're like, you know what? I can also look forward to the day when I will be having them be exiting my life, which is just such a great way of looking at it, that this too shall pass.
Yes. And sometimes it feels like a kidney stone. That's the subject I tell myself, because I have to have humor in it to laugh, right?
Absolutely. So, okay, so education. So we'll go into this. So then you obviously did great in school and sports and everything that you set your mind to. That your mom was like, okay, I'm gonna get him married off. I'm gonna figure this out. And you're like, hell no. And so you made the plan, and then you also, and it was getting dire because all the aunties in the neighborhood were like, all right, we'll team together. We can break her. We can get this done. Not even into an assault with your brother assaulting you. And so you didn't really go into it. And then, you fought it back when your mom said to him, break her, basically. What did you do to him? I mean, you got a few jabs in there, right?
Oh, no, he got more than jabs. I grew up with two brothers. I could take both of them on. That was not a problem. And I was an athlete. I ran track and I did shot put and I threw the javelin. So I can swing. I can swing. So that was not the issue. And I also always knew that if anybody touches me, the punishment is going to be twice as hard, because one is to punish you and the other is to remind you never, ever to go near a girl again. I don't care which girl. So to me, that was important. My father always said, I'm too harsh on the boys. And I say, no, I'm training them.
Okay. You know what? And it is good training, because you even alluded to later on that you hope this experience did not taint your brother's relationship with women and his daughter and his wife going forward with physical abuse. So you knew you had to get out. You knew that this was just not the place that you were going to be resolved and stay. Mm-hmm. And so you actually had a really formative conversation with your dad.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's
only through writing. Right? So he was in the Middle East. I wrote to him.
Oh, it was through a letter.
Through a letter. Okay. Because the phone was not a common thing in the middle of the war. Phone lines were cut off. We didn't have normal communications. We're talking 1986. I
thought of a phone call. In my mind, it was a phone call. Oh my God.
It was a letter.
The time and everything. Mm-hmm. And so then when you received that letter back, there was some kind of shift in you and your father's relationship, right?
Yes. So he pretty much, what I told him is, I'm leaving. I'm going and I will come back for my sister when she turns 16, but I am leaving. And I want to let him know so that he has an opportunity to support me in my leaving, or he's going to lose his daughter forever. I mean, I was that direct. And up until that time, he had counted on me to run the household in his absence. So my dad and I had a very, very close relationship, not so much as a father and daughter, but very much like strategic partners. I ran the business of the house and I took care of things because my mom had her physical illness and conditions, and she was not a strong woman. Yes, she was an educated woman. Yes, she was a university professor, but she didn't have the wherewithal and the energy to take care of things because of her health and various other things. So I had been the matriarch of the family. I was raised to be the matriarch of the family. So in a lot of ways, I was my father's strategic partner. Mm-hmm. And I made all the life decisions, and I'm the one he would discuss things with. So when I told my father that I was leaving, he actually called his coworkers at the bank in India and asked them to help me get admission.
And we'll get into masking business partners to help you later in India too, which is another whole adventure. But I didn't, when it came to your mother having heart ailments and having her being in infirmed capacity, that didn't get to until like a third into the book, when you were into the Civil War in 1983 and that whole piece, and you were throwing her over the fence, which I thought was pretty funny as well. But that didn't come out initially. And so that was really interesting, that because you did take it seriously, but the role was really serious of you being in complete control, not complete, but you were in very much responsible control.
Yes. My mom had her first heart attack when she gave birth to my youngest sister. Mm-hmm. And so my birthday was through the window with her in the ICU. Nobody thought she would make it because she had 4 children, one after the other.
In her 40s.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And through the grace of God, you guys are all beautiful grown adults too. So, okay. So now so you get out. You're like, thank you. Oh, and so tell us about what so clothing was always restricted, right? Yeah. And so whether and that was also contradictory on where and what you wore, right? Depending on those parts of life.
Where you were. So for school, we wore uniforms. Mm-hmm. So the uniform had to be knee length. We knelt down and it should precisely touch the ground. It shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't be too short, or the nuns will make us hem it or take the hem out. And then I was an athlete, so I wore shorts. But the minute I came into the home, they wanted me traditional, even though looking traditional puts your life at risk. Because if you dress traditional, you're announcing to the world you're a minority.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. And there was a point, go ahead, continue.
So it was always a struggle. I started making my own clothes because that was the only way for me to get my stuff. So I would take a sari is 6 yards. I can make all kinds of fancy stuff with 6 yards. So I started making my clothes and my sister's clothes, and everybody would tease me. My parents would tease me that I think like I'm like Lady Diana. I'm fashion designing my own outfits. But once I started making my clothes, there was nothing they can say. If my father says he's not going to wear a pair of pants, I will cut that into making a shorts with the top, and then I will turn the 2 legs upside down and make a pin like the pencil skirts for me.
Love it. So when you were leaving, because up until now, you didn't even have a pants at all, right? You have not worn.
No, I had never worn pants until I went to India.
And so getting on the plane to go to school, now that you were one way or another, you were leaving, and just then if they wanted to be part of your life, what did you wear on the plane?
I made myself a dress, a strap dress with a matching jacket. I wanted to be in a suit. I was just after my 16th birthday.
I love that. I love that a lot. So then, you know what I also find really interesting, and yet it's so formative of who you are, was that, so you went to Catholic school, but you were very much raised to be a traditional Hindu girl, and yet there was also people that were Buddhist, and so there were so many different cultures, religions, and continues on later when you go into India as well. And this formed tolerance.
Yes. So when Sri Lanka got its independence from the Europeans, we as a nation decided not to destroy their churches like they destroyed our temples. And so we made arrangements that we'll let them stay, we'll let them practice their faith, we'll even give them the opportunity to administer the publicly funded school system, but they can't convert our children. So almost all schools in Sri Lanka are run by the Christian clergy, nuns and priests, but hardly any of the children are Christian. And we are also taught all the religions in school. So part of our 10th grade public exam, we have to take 8 subjects. Math is one, science is one, religious studies is the other. So I'm a Hindu, born and raised in a Buddhist country, but the misnomer about Buddhism doesn't have gods. All the gods and goddesses in a Buddhist temple are Hindu. So Buddhism is a sect of Hinduism. Buddha was a Hindu. Buddhism takes a section of Hindu philosophy and spins it off. So there's really no large difference philosophically between Hindus and Buddhists. It's like being Anglicans and Protestants and Catholics. Okay. So we are taught all the religions, and we also as a culture go and pray in everybody's place of worship. And all the places of worship are next to each other, and we visit and we pray together in each other's places of worship. That is common culturally. We are trilingual and we are multi-religious in our practice.
And I think that, and coming from the Western and growing up in Western society, that we have that in some cities, in some places in the country, we don't have that at all. But then even taking it to that step further, where it's actually part of the educational curriculum, I think it's so important, so crucial, and so much part of who you are. Like the nuns were, there was Senior Julia was just ridiculously one of the first, significant people in forming who you are, and seeing who you get to be. And again, she was a nun.
Yes, a nun. Mm-hmm.
So We'll get into where you get to, where you've gotten, where you go, and where you still get to go with this, because that's where I want to be too. So, okay, you go to India, you excel, right? You're doing well, but then there was something that you just said slightly, and then so you said that it's the streets are not safe for women in India.
Yes,
Can you elaborate on that?
A woman can be assaulted while she is with her own husband by other men. When I was in the convent school doing my high school, men broke into campus and raped 5 nuns. It is okay to do anything to women in India. I walked around with an open safety pin and a bag of chili powder.
And the first before Mace. Love, I mean, that's what it was.
Yes. And there's no reason for anybody to come in touching distance. I attack first, then they can explain themselves later. Because I also had a sister with me. I had a younger sister to protect.
I did not, that's not firsthand knowledge. It was mentioned and I went, like as if it was, I didn't know that until the book.
Yeah, you can't get in public transportation without getting molested. Even when we had to catch a train, I would tell my sister to wait with the luggage and I will run and jump into the running train before it got to the train station, because there's only 4 seats that can be locked up as a safe room. And I needed to jump in and get that so that she and I are protected overnight when we are traveling. Or if we're in a bus, I let her sit inside and I sit on the aisle, knowing that any man sitting behind me, next to me, or in front of me is going to try and grab me all night. And somebody is going to keep walking up and down the aisle trying to grab me. So I had to be ready to fight back physically.
So these men, they have sisters, they have mothers, they may have wives and daughters.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's even dangerous to go to a classmate's home because you might be assaulted by the fathers and brothers.
And you mentioned that, okay, so what possessed you to reupholster the couch with that story there? That was like fabulous. And then you can get into what that meant and how careful you needed to be where you were, because you mentioned it, but I just didn't realize how severe. I did not know this until the book.
A lot of times Indian men are wary of Sri Lankan women because we are bold and we're not docile. We don't walk 10 steps behind our men. We actually, literally, Sri Lankan women hold the keys to the house, the kitchen, and the bank in their sari, okay? So we're in charge. So Indian men don't normally like their sisters and daughters being influenced by somebody like me because I'm teaching them independence. So there was always that. So this girl was not my classmate, but she and I volunteered together in the local community and we spoke the same language, Tamil. So she wanted me to come and spend the holidays with her. And so my sister and I, we went. And then one day I thought, you know what? Their sofa is broken. I'm good in sewing. I can upholster this. All these old clothes you want to throw, I'll stuff it in. And then I'll take the fabric that you have that is pretty and I can upholster. It's a craft, right? So I started doing it. And the older boy said he took the day off work and he was helping me. So I have learned, just because some men attack, I'm not going to fight with all the men. Right? Same way. I'm never going to judge anybody else by one person's behavior. So we worked harmoniously. We got it all done. And the father came from work and he just about lost it. He accused me of making his son miss work and that I am somehow, in the Hindu culture, you have these stories about these beautiful women who sing and dance and entice the men and distract them from their purpose in life. There's a word for it. It's called Mohini. Okay. So he was like, I was Mohinifying his son and I was completely distracting him. And he literally threw me out of the house after 8:00 at night.
And your sister.
And my sister. Mm-hmm. So we went and checked into a hotel. And my friend had such a big fight with her parents and she left home. She said, if you want to let Kasthuri stay here, then you're going to do the same to me. I'm leaving before you throw me out. So she came too to the hotel because she knew where we were. And that was the age before cell phones. You can't just, India, like Sri Lanka, you didn't have phone booths to go call, but somehow she tracked me down, right? But that's the one good thing about the Asian society. Everybody is nosy. Everybody knows everybody's business and you can find everybody.
Okay, that's a great story. And that's also really good, like, window into how things are in different places. It's just so, okay. So now your studies, right? You were triple major, and you also had your friends. Susie was from elementary school, high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then your friend that you went to college with. Well, Susie, you guys split. She became a doctor, so you guys are still
friends. She became a medical doctor.
Okay, good. There we go then. And so, is your husband okay?
Yes, he's okay. Yes,
okay, good. Because I didn't. Okay, fabulous. Then we'll get into that later then too. And let me think. Let me remember. Not Mark. What is your husband's first name?
Mike.
I was close. All right, good. All right, good. Okay. So we'll mention him later. So then you go on to triple major, and that you just knew this was the way it was, that triple major was very common in India, and you studied from like 8 to 5, and you did your schoolwork, and this was your purpose, but this was also your obligation. This is what you were supposed to be doing.
Yes. And then I volunteered to teach. That's how I put myself through school, right? So I taught the community, and in turn, the community's tax base educated me.
And I love that you actually started a whole program. And within that giving, just naturally coming from a place of generosity and leaning for others, all this other wonderful things happened.
Yes. And so I had an entire community rooting for me, because all of those kids who came through my classes every evening, now I have all those families looking out for me. I was no longer a foreigner. I was a child of the community.
You're no longer a refugee in someone else's country. And yet that was sustainable, and the generations of what that did. And you said, you know what, let me start by this one family.
Yes.
And there was nothing else further. It was just simply standing in that. And again, doing that very base of humanity of each person you meet, which is so simple, and yet is lost on so much right now.
I know. But the world I come from, I think it's easier because people see each other for who each other are. And we even greet each other this way, right? We say vanakkam. It literally means my soul sees the light, love, and truth in your soul. And when the light inside me recognizes the light inside you, we're one.
And that quote was coming for later. I did not know that was Namaste meant that. And that is so crystal clear about the collective and the light of the collective. You also mentioned the droplet of water in the ocean, and that you're all of the ocean, but you're the drop in that ocean. And that vision that makes so much sense when it does come to religion, when it does come to where spirituality. And it also then comes as a collective, and then that simplifies everything.
Yes. It takes the struggle. Life is not complicated unless we make it complex. And so children naturally have a way of cutting through the BS and getting to the heart of the matter. And I always am grateful for the struggles I've had as a child, because I was able to cut through the BS and see truth for what it is as a young person. Therefore, I didn't have to grow up jaded to figure it out later, if that even makes sense.
Well, we're going to go back to that your soul and your make, and that connection is that's where your purpose is, and that can't be taken from you nor belongs to anyone else. And so when you were first born, And it's another thing I learned was as Kasthuri means that was Gandhi's wife. I did not know that, but it also meant, and that there was that, it wasn't astrology, it was your chart to get into what that was and all of what that already alluded to the greatness that you get to be and who you are and where you're getting to go, because it's a continued journey.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that chart with the two names that you were given,
Mm-hmm.
can you share that with us a little bit?
Yes. So my religious name is Varivambihe. Varivambihe means beautiful goddess who destroys evil. It's the name of the female goddess. In the Hindu philosophy and Hindu religion, God is half male, half female. And the male part is the dancing god. And the constant dancing is symbolic to the movement of atom. And the female literally is Shakti. Shakti means energy. And the atom and the energy and the coming of it is what creates everything. So Hindu philosophy and Hindu mythology both are rooted in science. So many years before the age of modern science. And so naming that for me was partly to help me grow up realizing that I have it in me to deal with all the evil that's going to come my way. And I need to be in my place of grace and be the beautiful person I'm meant to be and fight the evil that comes my way without being evil myself. Don't get hard. Don't fight, go to the ugly side, meaning don't go to the dark side. And Kasthuri is a deer that is found in the Himalayas. And the male deer carries a musk in the navel. And it's used in Ayurvedic medicine. There's even a turmeric called Kasthuri Manjal. Manjal means turmeric. It's also used in Ayurvedic medicine. It has antibiotic properties. It has life-affirming properties and life-saving properties. So this deer goes through life wondering where is that fragrance coming from his whole life. And then when he keels over to die, he realizes, oh my God, it's in my navel. It's in my navel and I've always had it. So a child with the name Kasthuri is expected to grow up knowing that everything they need in life is already inside them. Just draw from within. So I was given those names based on my astrological chart by the Hindu priest because my chart said that I will leave home. I will not be in the presence of my mother or my motherland or my mother tongue. I will be in totally foreign places in very challenging situations, and they felt that my name was the only thing that was going to go with me, and they wanted to give me a name that would give me a place to draw from.
And it all comes out in your book. Mm-hmm. And it is something that you take with you and you reopen again, and that's the really brilliant piece, is that it's simple. Mm-hmm. It's a great story, a great read, but it's simple. Just as children, or being able to, this is when you were also, when you were in the nun school, about in elementary school or primary school, and there was the matching of buddies, and being able to mark those with their peers that were doing well and those that might not be, and as a team, which is just amazing. And that's a team is everything. Teaming and who you surround is the success in life. But within that, your capacity to say, okay, people learn differently. So let me adhere myself to how you learn, so then you can learn, and have to do with the baking and the skin and doing that whole diagram and that. And again, it's simplicity of seeing all of who they are, the purpose they get to be, and it's all important. And it's also just all basic, simple things that you stand for. And that's what makes the book so brilliant.
Thank you. My classmates always say they take full credit for me being a professor in adulthood. They gave me the training.
I love it. And you continued it, though. You continued it. Then you started that tutoring for the kids in India. So that is interesting, though, because and when in the beginning, when we did the PhD in teaching in the Chicago campus, right, in Illinois and all of that, and that you are this, okay, well, let's do a little bit of the doing and what that has, who you are and some of the successes you've achieved, but not who defines you. Mm-hmm. And so tell us a little bit of what your professional world is like, and who are the players in your life, and who do you get to hang out with, and what does that look like?
I am actually very blessed. So I have had a 30-year international finance career. I've played in the big leagues. I started with Standard Chartered Bank, which is the British bank that was the Federal Reserve for all British colonies. So my very first job, I was a banker at a bank doing international trade finance, and we were also the Federal Reserve for countries like Hong Kong. We printed the money, we did monetary policy, all of that cool stuff.
You were in charge.
Yes.
Federal Reserve's always in charge.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I started as a management trainee. So at 21, I joined in the management ranks because I had my technology background and I went into the fintech world. I was one of the first batch of technology graduates to come out of Bangalore University, and the British Bank hired me. Then when I came to America, I worked for AT&T, and I was part of that telecom deregulation and the launching of optic fiber network and voice video data, all of it merging. So I got into finance and business operations and telecom. Then I went to work at Aon and became the CFO for one of their Aon divisions. So just in my early 30s here, I was implementing Sarbanes-Oxley, implementing business analytics and predictive analytics for business, automating everything for the company, and being a CFO. And then 9/11 happened, and we became the disaster recovery for 9/11 because our East Coast operation was in Twin Tower 2, and our entire East Coast backup was in Twin Tower 1, and they both went down. But because me and a couple of other ladies in the office had war zone backgrounds,
I was wondering
we were
where
able to step in.
Okay.
Yes. Uh-huh. Most of the senior level men could not emotionally handle it because you were born and raised in America. You had not lived through that kind of devastation. And so it was emotionally impossible. And we actually were getting calls from the rebels asking us to send the first responders here or there. We had to call and tell the families who we lost, who we are trying to recover. All of those things we had to do first, in addition to running of the business. And it was not easy. And we had to keep the peace, keep the cool, and hold space for our employees and their families. And not many of us were equipped to deal with it, and rightfully so. And we allowed the survivors to take 6 months for therapy and rehab to then determine where they were psychologically feeling safe to go back to work. And we reshuffled the entire organization because some people could never get back to New York or in a high riser. So that was a whole different experience, but that truly brought to bear the value of struggles in young childhood that can actually help you be in a position of leadership and guide others through challenges. And the other lesson learned is I'm always good to people. And I always tell my team, be kind to everybody, including the cleaning lady. So when the cleaning lady went on maternity leave, we knew she was pregnant, so we gave her a baby shower. And she was so surprised. We never spoke the same language. They either spoke Spanish or Polish. And I only know Pidgin Spanish and no Polish. So, but they were so touched that we did this for them. And I always am mindful of the fact that if the cleaning lady doesn't come for half a day, our offices are a mess. CEO can be gone for one whole month. Nobody misses them. But don't make sure the cleaning lady is there. She's the most important person in a place. So we need to honor them, right? But when 9/11 happened and we all of a sudden had to stay and work for days without going home, the cleaning crew brought food for us from home. They made pastas and salads, and my team was Fred. Everybody's like, where the cleaning crew bringing
The city was shut down. There wasn't just going on. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it truly proves that kindness begets kindness. And if you do something for somebody, don't expect something in return. But when you least expect, the universe offers it back, right? And then went on to work for HSBC, the bank. And then I started my own consulting practice. So through my consulting practices, where I went in to be the CFO for 3 years and help the restructuring and automation of the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund. So I was a CFO for the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund for a 3-year contract to completely transform them. And there, to transform process, I had to work with the Illinois legislature to change the laws because the pension fund was run on 118-year-old rules. And so there was no definition of a charter school. None of the rules applied to the modern world. All of those had to be looked at to see how the numbers flow and how to protect how to stop the bleeding of the hemorrhaging of the system itself to protect the assets of the fund. And then from the pension fund, I went on to work for Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was.
Get to this. I want to know what he's like.
He's a good man. He's a very good man. When he acquires businesses, he gives you the autonomy to run it. He doesn't micromanage. And my role was to originally come and do the international stand-up, meaning the day the documents were signed in every country, the new Duracell under Berkshire ticker symbol, because he's buying a brand, he's not buying a company. The brand has to be stood up under the new company for trading and operating the minute ink hits the paper, and it has to happen in every country.
Okay, so let's get into this. This was a really great nugget that you had in there. You had used the analogy of when coming in, and so you're an outsider coming in, as well as that steering this company and the others that you had. That it was like, go into what animal and what that was like, and what that was, lean into that. That was a piece in the book. I thought it was brilliant as well.
Thank you. So it was a matter of working with every regulatory body in every country, with attorneys and bankers, and coordinating all the paperwork so that the minute ink hit paper, the switch is turned on and we're operational in every country. That means I had to work at Procter & Gamble, Duracell's old owner. They called themselves the blue team, and the people who were moving with the Duracell brand were the copper team. And I had to coordinate with the blue team and then execute for the copper team to truly transition over. And that was my initial engagement. And getting all the regulatory things set up, I was the one who created all the documents. In fact, the night before the signing, I met the attorney at the train station at 9 o'clock, between 9 and 9:30, and I gave him a suitcase full of documents, and he was so grateful he gave me a bottle of booze, and I'm like, this looks like a really bad drug deal, right? The darkness of the train station. But then the minute everything was signed and I was phasing off, the organization turned around and said, Cass, we Americans are not used to functioning in all these countries with all these requirements, tax and treasury and transfer pricing and all of these regulatory considerations. And we have so much more to do. We just can't let you go. And so the head of HR sat me down and said, Cass, you remind me of, who's the lady in the movie? Now it escapes me. She is the lady who comes in when families are troubled and she takes care of the children. Mary Poppins.
Okay. Okay.
She said, don't take this wrong. Mary Poppins is my favorite movie. And you remind me of Mary Poppins. You came with a bag of tricks and you helped solve our problems. But we are not ready for you to take that bag and go to solve somebody else's problems because we have more to solve. So we need Mary Poppins to stay with us.
And tell them about riding your big elephant and that analogy.
Yes. So the conversation I had with her is culture is important. If you want me to stay and help, then we need to come to an understanding that we're going to work together to build a culture, because this is Berkshire bought Duracell. Duracell came from Procter & Gamble. So there is his and hers, and this is like Brady Bunch, right? His and hers and ours. And somebody like me is from nowhere. How does this all work
everywhere,
together?
by the way.
Yes. And so it has to be like riding an elephant. You can tell a horse where to go, but you can't tell an elephant where to go. We have to motivate the elephant so that the elephant takes its own journey. And if you antagonize the elephant, then you're going to get squashed. And that is the organizational inertia based on the organizational culture. So we have to have some basic ground rules, and they agreed to it. And then I came on board for 5 years to do the post-acquisition transition, making sure that the whole procedural end from beginning to end. I also have a Six Sigma black belt, so I can go in and evaluate processes and look at where there are breakage points, where there is waste, and implement changes so that processes are simple. Because just like when people make life complicated, they also make processes complicated to prove that their job is important.
Exactly.
How do you remove all the complexity so that the process is simple, it flows seamlessly? And once it's stable and seamless, then you can improve quality. And we're a manufacturer, so quality is important. So implementing that piece as well as training the new organization on how to run the operation, because as a part of a larger corporation, a lot of the work was centralized. And now these folks have to do things they've never done before. And there had to be an entire learning and development component, coaching component. That was part of my job. So travel all over the world, train them, implement process through them, let them drive the process, guide them, coach them, mentor them. And for 5 years, that's what I did, as well as build a learning and development platform and a framework for the organization to sustain itself after me. So I always say, if you need for somebody to come and move your cage from point A to point B, because everybody's like a hamster running on a mounted cage, don't call me, call one of the big consulting firms. They will do for you every day and come back every year and take more of your money. If you want me to come, then you need to agree that you're going to release the hamster's wheel. And the hamster is running anyway. It can propel. If I help take from point A to point B, hamster should be able to propel itself from B to C and C to D. Call me for another reason. I'm fundamentally an educator. If education doesn't result in transformation, I've wasted my time, I've wasted your time. And as a process expert, I reduce waste.
And you're not going to start now by doing something you don't want to do.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question. So I want to know what's next. Mm-hmm. And also, what if you were to define, and you already have one, but on this journey, what would be what is your legacy you're continuing to move forward with? You've already created so much. Mm-hmm. But what's next?
My mission has always been building to last and ennobling for success. That is my mission. So everything I do, I want it to be part of a self-healing ecosystem that can sustain itself, or I wasted my time. Because in life, the one thing we don't get back is time. Yeah. And when I invest time, I'm investing a piece of my life. And it has to mean something. If not for other people, it has to mean something for me, because I know that I was spared for a reason. I watched a lot of my classmates die. So for me, it is real that I am living because of other people putting their lives at risk to give me the opportunity to live. And therefore, I have a duty. I also come from a society where duty is called dharma. Each of our souls has a dharma to fulfill. Dharma means duty. And my life is my purpose, and my life is my message, and my life is my mission. So to live that dharma, I can't waste my time. And so everything I do, I try to do it in a way that it is building to last. And that's why I have to have a community around to sustain it, because I'm not doing it for me, for today, for money. I'm building it to last. And in that process, it's important for me to pass on the ennobling to other people, because success comes by ennobling others, not by hoarding from everybody. So ultimately allows me to propagate an abundance composition for people, because it's the scarcity mentality that creates a dog-eat-dog world social Darwinism. An abundance approach to the universe allows us to ennoble each other and thrive.
There's enough.
Mm-hmm. There is enough for all of us.
By the way, your book does that. And so we're going to leave with one last thought, and then I'd love to have you back. Okay. And so what's the next step? Where do we go from here? And how can we work with you? And what does this look like?
I am branding all my training and education as Ennobled for Success Institute. And I'm launching a new 4-part program. It's a 4-course program that takes people through this ennobling journey through the lens of how do you lead with self-awareness and connect with your inner light and hold space for you, because you can't give what you don't have. The second course talks about leading with relationships. How do you then lean in and build lasting relationships and create a sustainable ecosystem for collective thriving? Mm-hmm. The third course talks about how do you lead with financial awareness. America doesn't teach its citizens on how to manage money, the richest country in the world. And I mean, why am I from Sri Lanka working for Warren Buffett teaching everybody how to manage money? I'm from Sri Lanka, right? That says a lot. Yeah. I'm a graduate school professor for accounting, finance, and economics. Most finance professors are foreign. There is hardly any American born and raised finance PhD, right? So I want to pass on the basic financial acumen and how do you make decisions for your family, your business, your not-for-profit in a meaningful way so that you can thrive and you can create that abundantness, right?
And serve your purpose.
Yes, and serve your purpose. And then the fourth course is leading with a strategic purpose. How do you find your purpose? Purpose is at the intersection of what you love, your passion, your skill, and what the world needs. At the intersection of those three is your purpose. How do you find your purpose? And then how do you bring your authentic self, your authentic relationships, and your financial acumen? And how do you build that purpose in a strategic way to then nurture you and sustain your life? So that even if you have a career, build around it. And so to me, these 4 things are what made my life successful. And I was fortunate enough to be in a culture, in a society, in an environment where I was given most of the tools and the rest organically came. I always say it was divine. I don't take credit for most of these things because I didn't consciously do it. That it makes sense. You. Yes. Right. So I am humble enough to say that it was a gift. I just needed to recognize my gifts. But now what I want to do is pass it on to other people. People ask me, how can you, a immigrant woman of color who's a non-English speaker, how do you get to become a CFO in your early 30s and accomplish all of this and work for Warren Buffett? It's not because of what I do. It's about who I am and what I know. And so we are in a point in time in the world where people need to take these tools. Too many people feel isolated and left behind. So the best way I know how to help is to bring this forward and give it to individuals and organizations so that as individuals thrive and they feel the sense of abundance, then little by little, we can eliminate the darkness that comes with scarcity.
And we bring more with us.
Yes.
Okay. I love every piece of it. I'm excited for this next piece that's been coming and now is going to continue bringing in others as you continue to go forward.
So I've already launched my program. Anybody who's interested can go to my website, KASHENRY.com. So it's Cass@CassHenry.com. And I always remind people I'm not an ass with a K in front, so don't be So reach out to me. There's information there. I would love to help you and your organization. And ultimately, this is a journey we're going to take together, and it's going to take all hands on deck to get past the situations and circumstances we've put ourselves in.
I agree with you. And again, everyone get the book, Ennobled for Success. From Civil War to US CFO it's a must have in the library for all that it continues to teach, but it's just an amazing read as well. And there's just so many nuggets. It's just get the book. It's been my absolute pleasure and honor. And I look forward to continuing working in alliance with you, because that would be greatness too, as we all could stand in our leadership. So I'm thrilled to have met you.
Thank you so much, Vanakkam. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you and meet your audience.
One last question. So when is the new year? When is your new year?
My new year comes in April. So the entire Dravidian New Year from South India all the way to Thailand is based on the lunar calendar. It comes around the 11th, 12th through the 15th, 16th of April. It's when the planets shift and all of those things happen with the moon.
Okay,
so our new year is in April.
With because I know the Persian is the 21st of March, but I think it has to do with the growth season, right? In spring?
Yes.
So this has its lunar.
Yeah, it's a lunar calendar.
Okay, good. Well, happy New Year. And then I look forward to so then will you be 2022 or 2021, or it's a different calendar?
Oh, we are more than 5,000 years ahead. So we don't count the years. We follow the Gregorian calendar because that's what, occupationally, that's what we follow. But today is our Thanksgiving. So yesterday was the Thanksgiving to the sun and Mother Nature Harvest Festival. And today is Thanksgiving to all the animals and the creatures make our life sustainable, and the cow. So today is the day for the holy cow and all the creatures in our life that make our life possible, including the little bacteria and the worm that are already in the ground.
We're all connected.
Yes, we're all connected.
Okay, I'm going to leave on that note then. And again, to be continued.
Thank you so very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.